You think of the fall of Rome and your mind goes swords flashing, buildings burning, and the Roman Empire collapsing overnight, right? Okay, so maybe some of that did happen, but that's far from the whole story. The version is exciting, sure, but it's just not accurate enough. The fall of Rome was in no way sudden. In fact, it didn't even really fall. We're talking about an empire that had too slowly let go of itself, like all of us after Christmas. Overfed, overstretched, and telling ourselves we'd deal with it later. Exhaustion, bad decisions, and problems that were ignored for so long, people forgot they were even problems. To understand what happened back then, you should really stick around now, because I'm going to explain the real reasons why every man's favorite empire collapsed, and why it was not an overnight event. I'm the Darkineer, and this is the fall of Rome like nobody explained it before. Okay, so to get a good idea of the depths of this event, we're taking you back to the time when Rome was massive. We're talking huge. It controlled land from Britain all the way to North Africa and the Middle East. You would find stone roads, massive cities, clean water systems, and laws. Laws that actually worked. But the best part? They had the most unbeatable army. For the longest time, Rome expanded and it just kept going at it. Expansion meant victory meant loot, and loot meant money. As long as Rome kept conquering, its system worked just fine. But eventually, they ran out of places that could be conquered easily and ended up with no places left to conquer. And that, my friend, is when the real trouble began. You would think an army that's victorious would be thriving and living so lavishly, but oh boy, Rome was broke. Rome still needed huge amounts of money. Soldiers had to be paid, cities had to be maintained, and officials had to literally be bribed to stay loyal. When the money from conquest slowed down, what did the Roman leaders do? Anything but the right thing. They didn't want to raise taxes because people already hated paying them. So instead, emperors got a little more creative and quietly ruined their own currency. I mean, take for example the time they reduced the amount of silver in coins while keeping the same size and design. To the average person, the coin looked like any other of those plain coins. But in reality, it was worth way less. Over time, prices rose. People stopped trusting money and trade became the most unstable thing on the planet. At the same time, soldiers demanded higher pay, which made the problem even worse. Rome just threw itself into the fire because destroying its own currency seemed the easier solution than making reforms. And Rome did not even stop there. One often overlooked fact is that Rome was poisoning itself in a way even ancient philosophers could not have understood. The Romans absolutely adored lead. They used it for water pipes, cooking tools, makeup, medicine, and guess what? For some good old wine too. They made a sweet syrup by boiling grape juice in lead containers, which added flavor and slowly added poison. Alright, I know what you're thinking, we know lead damages the brain and body, especially with long-term exposure. This didn't instantly make Romans stupid, but it did do some really dark stuff. It caused widespread health problems, nerve damage, lower birth rates, and reduced mental sharpness over a lot of people. And by a lot of people, I mean especially those in urban centers. Modern estimates suggest that up to 40% of the urban population were affected. Imagine trying to run a massive empire while slowly lowering the average health and thinking ability of your population. Rome did that to itself without realizing it. And while lead poisoning didn't collapse Rome by itself, it quietly weakened parts of a society already under strain. Just like that, the cherry on top, another slow creeping factor placed a heavy burden on the system. Disease. If there was one thing that Rome excelled at, it was that it was good at connecting people. Roads, ships, and cities allowed goods to travel quickly. Unfortunately, germs traveled just as fast. In the 2nd century, a devastating outbreak known as the Antonine Plague spread across the empire. It likely killed millions of people. Entire villages lost workers. Farms were abandoned, the army shrank because soldiers were dying faster than they could be replaced. Tax income dropped rock bottom, because were there even people alive to pay taxes? Nope. Rome survived this plague, but it never fully recovered before the next problems arrived. As Roman citizens became more and more broke and exhausted of constant wars, fewer of them wanted to serve in the army. Fighting wasn't even about defending your home anymore. The poor guys just didn't want endless border duty in some deserted lands far away. So Rome had to come up with a plan. They began recruiting more and more soldiers from outside the empire. Germanic tribes, Goths, and other groups joined the Roman military. At first this worked well. Many were excellent fighters. But loyalty became complicated. these soldiers often cared more about their commanders or their own people than Rome itself. Some generals became so powerful that they could threaten the emperor. Others used their armies to demand land or political control. Rome still had soldiers, but it no longer fully controlled them. Around the same time, large groups of people began moving across Europe. This wasn't because they wanted to destroy Rome. Many were fleeing hunger, climate changes, or attacks from other tribes. Rome allowed these groups to settle inside their borders. At first glance, the idea seems very nice, but the system was badly managed. Many newcomers were treated poorly, cheated, or left starving. When people are desperate and have access to weapons, bad things start to happen. Rebellions followed. Rome, already weakened, struggled to respond effectively, causing a loss of control across all parts of the empire. Simultaneously, the task of managing its own cities became increasingly challenging as well. Maintaining them required constant repairs, clean water, and organized governments. But as money and manpower disappeared, buildings collapsed and aqueducts broke. Once clean water stopped flowing, people moved away. When cities emptied, trade slowed. And when trade slowed, the economy weakened further. It became a loop that fed itself. Rome was no longer a network of strong cities, it was becoming scattered and fragile. By this point, Rome still existed in name, but it no longer felt unstoppable. People could sense something was wrong, even if they didn't have a word for it yet. As Rome weakened, something else quietly changed how people thought about power and loyalty. For centuries, being Roman meant taking part in public life. People attended festivals, honored the old gods, and felt connected to the state through shared traditions. But as Christianity spread, those old habits mattered less. People now looked to the church for help, guidance, and protection. Bishops became important local leaders. When the government failed to fix roads, feed the poor, or protect towns, church leaders stepped in. This wasn't planned rebellion, it was simply people turning towards whatever still worked. Over time, loyalty shifted from the empire to local religious communities. This mattered more than it initially appears. Empires survive when people believe in them. Rome had once felt eternal, now it felt distant. When invasions happened or taxes increased, fewer people felt the need to defend the state. Many just wanted safety for their families. Rome was still there, but it no longer felt like a shared project. Now we come to the part that is often misunderstood as the main reason for Rome's decline. The invasions of barbarian tribes. When the invasions came, Rome was already on the ground, and only then did they finally break it. Movies show savage armies smashing everything in their path, leading to the total destruction of a world power in a single blow. In reality, many so-called barbarians wanted to live inside the Roman world, not destroy it. They admired Roman cities, laws, and wealth. Some groups even tried to become Roman. The problem was that Rome no longer had the strength or organization to control these movements properly. Borders that once held firm began to crack. When large groups crossed rivers like the Rhine, Rome didn't have enough troops or money to respond. Entire provinces slowly slipped out of imperial control, not through one great battle, but through neglect. One of the most famous moments in this story is the sack of Rome in 410 CE. When the Visigoths entered the city, it shocked the ancient world. Rome had not been captured by a foreign enemy in nearly 800 years. People thought the end had come. But surprisingly, life continued. The city was damaged, but it wasn't destroyed. The real damage was psychological. If Rome could fall, then nothing was truly safe anymore. The idea of Rome as untouchable was gone. After this, things unraveled faster. Emperors came and went quickly, many were controlled by powerful generals, some never even set foot in Rome. The Western Empire became a patchwork of regions ruled by local strongmen, many of whom were former Roman officials or generals with foreign roots. They still used Roman law, wore Roman clothes, and ruled Roman people. The empire hadn't vanished. It had broken into pieces. In 476 CE, a young emperor named Romulus Augustulus was removed from power. This moment is usually marked as the fall of the Western Roman Empire. But to the people living then, it didn't feel like the end of the world. No cities exploded, no great final battle was fought, another ruler simply took over. Many people probably didn't even know anything important had changed. Life was already different long before that date. What's often forgotten is that Rome never truly disappeared. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, survived for nearly 1,000 more years. Roman law continued to influence governments, Latin survived through languages like Italian, French, and Spanish. Roads, buildings, and ideas outlived the empire itself. Even the church preserved Roman knowledge when much of Europe became unstable. The fall of Rome wasn't an ending, it was a transformation. I tell you who were some of the busiest people during this time. Writers. Yep, they made sure they were about to bring the horrors of the empire and the truth to the world. They complained about corruption, inflation, weak leadership, and declining morals not just a couple of times, but for centuries. They knew something was wrong. They just believed Rome would always recover, because, well, it always did. And with that belief, the empire, as we all admire it, fell and is no more. And with that, we come to an end of today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave. I'm the Darkeneer, and I see you in the next video.